Okay guys, so this is a review for test number 3 on solids. Okay, so let's start with number 1 and number 2. I'm only going to do the ones that I have circled in red. I'm not going to do every single problem on the review. I figure that the ones that I have circled are enough for you guys to get a little practice for tomorrow's test. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, I believe everybody got these right. Draw a net for each of the following solids, it says. So the first one is a cone. It's supposed to look like a cone. So I showed you guys this one. The base is a circle. So draw a circle. And the lateral area, the lateral surface of the cone makes this other circle shape. But it's not going to be a full circle. It kind of ends right about there. Okay. When you fold that in together, it creates a cone. The next one is a cylinder. So for a cylinder, what you want to do is make a rectangle. That's the lateral surface of the cylinder. And then put a circle in the bottom and a circle on top. And you got a cylinder. The next one is a rectangular prism. What you want to do is put a rectangle as your base, another rectangle as your base, and then you have a bigger rectangle here. And of course it's not going to be perfect. Your two rectangles, these two rectangles that I put here, don't have to be right on the edge. They could be in the middle, just like these circles are over here, right in the middle of the rectangle. Alright, and the last one is a pyramid. What you want is you want a square base and then triangles coming out of each side. And that creates a perfect square pyramid. Alright, let's look at number 2 real quick then. Number 2, what solid figure can be formed from the following nets? Use your imagination here. Try to put this together, and this will be a triangular prism. This next one, you can see that they're all perfect squares. So you can say a cube, which is fine. Or you can say it's a rectangular prism, which is the actual name of it. Rectangular prism. It just happens that the base is a rectangle, which happens to be a perfect square. The next one, we just drew that one. It's over here on number 1. Okay, that is a square pyramid. Don't just say pyramid. We got to specify what type of base this pyramid has, and the base is a square, so it's a square pyramid. And this last one is also a pyramid, as you can see, but the base of this one is a triangle, so it's a triangular pyramid. And that's it for those. Okay, now let's look at number 3. It says there's a box which is a candy container with a square base and a pyramidal top. How many square inches of pasteboard are needed to make the box, not counting any overlapping edges? So what I see here is a composite figure. The bottom portion, this part right here, is a rectangular prism. So my formula for that will be S equals PH plus 2B. However, remember, you need to remove everything that is not actually included. In this case, it cannot be 2B because there's only one base. That top base over here is not actually part of your surface. Okay, so what you need to do here is not count 2B and instead just put B, just one base. That is for the prism, the rectangular prism. The surface area of the pyramid on top is 1/2 P perimeter L slant height plus B. But just like the last one, we are not going to include B because the base of this pyramid is not part of your surface. So I'm going to erase that part. And there it is. I figure those out and I add them together to make my surface area. So here we go. In order to figure these out, I need to know what the perimeter is. I'm going to do that right here. I need to know what the height of the prism is. I need to know what the area of the base is, and I need to know what the slant height is. If I know those 4 things, then I'm pretty much done. Just plug them in. So let's start with P for the perimeter. As you can see, the base is a square, so the perimeter is going to be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, or 16. The height, this capital H represents the height of the prism, right? It's over here. So that is easy to figure out. The height is right here. The height of the prism is only 3 inches, so 3. B, that means the area of the base, right? This represents the area of the base. So in this case, what you have in the base is a square, so the area of that square is 4 times 4, right? Length times width, which is 16. So the area of the base happens to be 16 also, just like the perimeter. And finally, L stands for the slant height, right? L stands for the slant height, which is given to me in this case, right? Usually, sometimes they give me the vertical height, and I have to use the Pythagorean theorem. In this case, they gave it to me, so it's 4 inches. All right, so using all of those numbers, I can figure out the total surface area here. So let's start right here. Surface area equals P, which is 16, times H, which is 3, plus the area of the base, which is 16. And that is going to give me, just punch it into your calculator real quick, 16 times 3 plus 16, and you get 64. For the second, the pyramid, surface area is 1/2 times the perimeter, which is 16 again, and L, the slant height, which is 4. So that's 8 times 4, because 1/2 of 16 is 8, times 4 is 32. So what is the total surface area? What you do is you add the surface area that you got for the prism and the surface area that you got for the pyramid, put them together, do 64 plus 32, and that'll give you 96. So your answer is 96 square inches. There it is. Okay, here we go, number 6. Filters to line funnels are made by forming filter paper stock around the cone shown below, not including the base. The figure may not be drawn to scale. So this is important right here. It says that it is not including the base. So make sure you pay attention to those when you're reading these problems. Part A, what is the slant height of the cone? Show your calculations. So let's do part A right here. Slant height. Well, what I'm going to do is use the vertical height, which is 12, and this radius, which is 9, to form a right triangle right here. So using the Pythagorean theorem, 12 squared plus 9 squared equals L squared, I can figure out the slant height. 12 squared is 144, 9 squared is 81, equals L squared. 144 plus 81 is 225. And then you can just take the square root of both sides to find that L is equal to 15. That's part A. Part B, how many square centimeters of filter paper are in each filter? Explain your reasoning. Use 3.14 as an approximation for the value of pi, and round your answer to the nearest hundredth of a square centimeter. Okay, so how many square centimeters? That means surface area. So we're trying to find the surface area now. Surface area of a cone is pi r L plus the area of the base, except that in this case we don't need the area of the base because, as you remember from up here, this is not including the base. Okay, so not the base, just pi r L. Well, seeing that we already found L, we can just plug in the numbers here. It's pi times r, which is 9, times L, which is 15. So my surface area is, use a calculator, and it says to use 3.14. So I'm going to use exactly 3.14 to make sure that I get the correct answer that they want. Is 15 here. And now just a calculator. 3.14 times 9 times 15. 423.9 is the total surface area. These are centimeters squared. That's part B. Okay, now let's look at number 7. It says a jewelry store buys small boxes in which to wrap the items that they sell. The diagram below shows what one of the boxes. Find the lateral area and the surface area of the box to the nearest whole number. Okay, so it's asking me for the lateral area and the surface area. The lateral area is the surface area without the bases. That's what it really means. Okay, so in this case, since I have a rectangular prism, the surface area, you know the formula is pH plus 2b. The lateral area is simply pH. No bases, basically. The lateral area is all the area except the bases. Right? So we're going to find that first. We're going to find the lateral area first. So let's see. The lateral area is perimeter times height. So the perimeter of the base, in this case, you're looking at this bottom rectangle. Pretend it's a box. The bottom part of the rectangle, that is the base. Okay. So the perimeter is going to be 14 plus 7 plus 14 plus 7, right? I'll add all four sides. So it's going to be 14 plus 7, which is 21, plus 14 plus 7, which is another 21. So P, in this case, is 42. H is the height. That one is easy to find. It's right there, 1.66. The area of the base, let's go ahead and find it already so that when we plug it in, it makes everything easier. It's the base, since the base is a rectangle, it's length times width, so 14 times 7, which gives me 98. Oops, 98. Now plug them in and you're done. So let's find the lateral area first. The lateral area is P times H, so 42 times 1.66. And my calculator says 69.72. Centimeters squared. Now it says round to the nearest whole number, so I'm going to round this to 70 centimeters squared. And so that means that it's either B or C, right? 70 and 266, 70 and 364. So how do I know which one? Well, I got to find the surface area now, right? It says lateral area and surface area. So to find the surface area, it's over here. You're going to do that. We already found pH is 70, or 69.72 to be more exact. I'm going to use the non-rounded version. Plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 98. Right? pH plus 2b. So 2 times 98 is 196. So it's basically 70. Let's just round it already. Plus 196, which gives me a total of 266. Which tells me that the correct answer is C. 70 centimeters squared for the lateral area and 266 for the surface area. Okay, now let's move on to number 9. It says find the surface area of the cylinder, of the prism right here. So we're just going to go ahead and find the surface area. This is not a pyramid. Make sure you guys can tell that this is not a pyramid. So make sure you can tell which formula you're supposed to be using. This is not a pyramid. It's a prism. It's pH plus 2b. It does have two bases. You just got to look at it the right way. The bases in this case are these two triangles. Okay, I'm going to highlight them right here. This triangle and the back triangle. Those are the bases in this case. Okay, the base is not this bottom rectangle. It's not this rectangle down here. Okay, the bases are these two triangles on the sides. Okay, so it's basically lying on its side. It should be standing on that triangle with another triangle on top. Make sure you guys can identify this. Okay, so if I look at those two rectangles as my bases, then that means that I can find the perimeter, the height, and the area of the base. Those three items are enough for me to figure this out. Okay, so let's start with the perimeter. The perimeter of the base, remember P stands for the perimeter of the base. It's going to be 8 plus 9 plus whatever this length is, which you can figure out using the Pythagorean theorem, or you can simply look over here and see that it's 12.04. for this one. So it's 8 plus 9 plus 12.04. I'm going to punch that into the calculator, which gives me 29.04. 04. H, the height of the prism, it is not 8. The height of the prism means the distance from one base to the other base. In this case, it's 23. And B, the area of the base. The base is a triangle, so make sure you use the correct formula. To find the area of this triangle, it's 1/2 base times height, right? That's the area of a triangle. Make sure you use the correct base and height here. In this case, we're talking about only the triangle, the base of the triangle and the height of the triangle. So the base of the triangle is 9, and the height of the triangle is 8. So it'll be 1/2 times 9 times 8. According to the calculator, that is 36. Okay, now that you got your three values, all you got to do is just plug them into the formula and you're done. So the surface area is the perimeter, which is 29.04, times the height of the prism, which is 23, plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 36. And now it's just calculator time. 29.04 times 23 plus 2 times 36. 739.92 is what my calculator says. We're supposed to round these to the nearest 10th. Ooh, I forgot to find the lateral area. Okay, let's find the lateral area. It's actually real easy. All you got to do for the lateral area is to ignore the basis, right? So ignore that 2 times 36. So it's just 29.04 times 23. 667. 667.92. So there's your lateral area and your surface area. We're rounding these to the nearest whole number, so 667 becomes 668. And 739 becomes 740. So 668 and 740, that means your answer is C. Okay, let's move on to number 10. I have a cylinder where they gave me the diameter and they gave me the height. Okay, it should be simple enough. All you got to do is remember the formula. So surface area of a cylinder is going to be S equals CH plus 2B. Okay, so in order to figure this out, I need to know what C is, what H is, and what B is. C circumference, H height of the cylinder, B area of the base. Okay, so let's start with C. I'm going to calculate over here. The formula for the circumference is 2 pi r. In this case, r is 4.5, right? Because the diameter is 9, which means that the radius is 4.5, half of that. 4.5 times 2 times pi. 4.5 times 2 is 9, so 9 pi. The height that's given to me, it's 19. And the area of the base is pi r squared. The radius, once again, is 4.5, so 4.5 times 4.5 is 20.25 times pi. So 2025 pi. There. Using those values, I can now find the total surface area. Here we go. Let's just plug them in. S equals C, 9 pi, times H, 19, plus 2 times B, 20.25 pi. I'm going to simplify this. In the first one, it's 9 times 19 pi. So it's going to be 171 pi. The second part is going to be 2 times 20.25, which is going to be 40.5 pi. Put those together, so it's 171 plus 40.5. and I get 211.5. 211.5 pi. And that would be D, right? 211.5 pi centimeters squared. Okay, next I'm going to do 27 and 28, which are basically the same idea. 27 says find the surface area of a sphere. So my formula is going to be 4 pi r squared. Find the surface area of a sphere with a circumference of 13 millimeters. So this is the information that they're giving me. Round to the nearest tenth. What I'm going to start with is the circumference. Using the formula for the circumference, I'm going to find r, because I don't know what r is. And then once I find r, I'm going to plug it in right here so I can find the surface area. Okay. The formula for the circumference is 2 pi r. So what I'm going to do is say 2 pi r is equal to 13 millimeters, because that's what they told me, the circumference is equal to 13 millimeters. Solve for r by dividing by 2 pi. These cancel, so r equals 13 divided by 2 times pi. 2.07 is what I get. Use that r and plug it into the surface area formula. 4 pi r 2.07 squared. And that's your final answer. 2.07 squared times 4 times pi. 53.8. And you're done. Which means B. Easy enough. Okay, now let's look at 28. It's the same idea. A balloon has a circumference of 11 centimeters. So once again, they gave me the circumference. Use the circumference to approximate the surface area of the balloon to the nearest square centimeter. So I need to find the surface area, which is 4 pi r squared. Once again, what I'm going to do is use the formula for the circumference, 2 pi r, set it equal to what they gave me, and solve for r. Divide by 2 pi. Divide by 2 pi. Cancels. So r is equal to 11 divided by 2 pi. 1.75. Use that r, plug it into the surface area. 4 pi r squared, 1.75. And that should give you your final answer. That's 1.75 squared is 3.06 multiplied times 4. And then multiplied times pi. And I get 38.5. But it says round to the nearest square centimeter, so to the nearest whole number, that would be A, 39 centimeters squared. Okay, so I just want to show you a few more examples to get you guys used to this idea. This one is about scale factors, which we mentioned briefly, but I didn't put any on your review, and you guys got to be able to do this, okay? So it says a sphere has a radius of 5, another sphere has a radius of 10. What is the ratio, or find the ratio of the surface areas? So let's break it down first. Let's just concentrate on the first sphere. The radius is 5, and I need to find the ratio of the surface areas. So let's find the surface area of that first sphere. The formula for the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. So using that, my surface area is going to be 4 pi times 5 squared. Right? The radius is 5, which is 25. So the surface area is 4 pi times 25. And then I multiply 4 and 25 together to get 100. So the surface area is 100 pi. That is the first one, the first sphere. The second sphere, the surface area is once again 4 pi r squared, but in this case, r is 10. That's going to be 100, so 4 pi times 100. And then 100 times 4 is 400. The question is, find the ratio of the surface areas. Okay, ratio means fraction. So find the fraction that connects these two surface areas. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to put surface area 1. Surface area of the first sphere, we'll call it sphere 1, over surface area of sphere 2. And if I do that, it's going to be 100 pi over 400 pi. And if I simplify that, the pi's cancel. 100 over 400 simplifies down to 1/4. So what does that mean? It means that the ratio of the first sphere to the second sphere is 1/4. Okay? If I wanted to say that in words, then I could say the second sphere is 4 times, the surface area of the second sphere is 4 times as big as the surface area of the first sphere. Or if I wanted to say it the other way, then I would say the surface area of the first sphere is 1/4 the surface area of the second sphere. Right? The surface area of the first sphere is 1/4 the surface area of the second sphere. Okay? Could I have predicted that without doing the actual work? The answer is yes. You could have predicted that by using our scale factors. Okay? So if the radius of the first sphere is 5 and the radius of the second sphere is 10, then what I did to the radius is I multiplied the radius times 2, right? That's what we did. The radius got multiplied times 2 to become 10. So what happens to the surface area when you multiply the radius times 2? Well, the surface area gets multiplied times not 2, but 2 squared, which is 4. The surface area gets multiplied by 4. So if the surface area of the first sphere is 100 pi, then the other one is 400 pi. If the surface area of the first sphere is 10, then the second one is 40, and so on. It gets multiplied by 4. So you can easily find the ratio and say, well, if the first sphere is 1, the second one is 4. And you could get the ratio like that, 1/4. If the first one is 2, then the next one is 8, and it's the same ratio, 2 over 8, which is 1/4. Okay, you can find the ratio easily by just doing that. Or find the ratio of each, find the surface area of each one, and then do the ratio. All right, let's try another one. Hope you guys can read this. I wrote this one in a rush right here. A rectangular prism has a surface area of 372 meters squared. The length and width of the base are 6 and 4 respectively. What's the height of the prism? Okay, I'm not going to attempt to draw it. It's enough that I told you that the width and length and width of the base are 6 and 4, and the surface area is 372. That's what I'm going to start with. The formula for the surface area is PH plus 2B, because what I have is a rectangular prism, right? So using P, H, and B, I'm going to figure out what the missing information is. Okay, so the question is, what's the height of the prism? So actually this one is the one we don't know. But we can fill in everything else. Okay, for example, they told me that the surface area right here is 372. So I'm going to put 372 right there. They also tell me that the length and width of the base are 6 and 4. That helps me find the perimeter and the area of the base. Okay, so if the length and width, I'm going to draw that rectangle, just the base, that's the base, are 6 and 4, then the perimeter is 6 plus 4 plus 6 plus 4, which is going to be 20. The area of the base is going to be 6 times 4, right? 6 times 4, length times width, which is going to be 24. Plug in those values, and that way I can figure out what H is. So PH, that means 20H, because we don't know what it is, plus 2 times B, which is 24. So 372 equals 20H plus 48. And I'll just solve for H. Subtract 48 from both sides. 372 minus 48, 324. Divided by 20, 16.2. 16.2 is H. And that's it, meters. The height of the rectangular prism is 16.2 meters. Okay, we got 3 more and we're done. The surface area of a sphere is 50 pi centimeters squared. What's the circumference? All right, so I need both formulas for the surface area and the formula for the circumference. That way I can figure this out. So surface area is a sphere, so 4 pi r squared. So the surface area is 50. 50 equals 4 pi r squared. So using this, I can figure out r. Divide by 4 pi. Oh, the surface area is not 50, it's 50 pi, right? 50 pi. So divide by 4 pi. The pi and the pi cancels, so it's 50 divided by 4, which is 12.5, equals r squared. Take the square root of both sides. And so r is 3.54. Let's leave it as 3.54. So now it says find the circumference. Okay, so the circumference is 2 pi r. Okay, 2 pi r. So it's going to be 2, which is 2 pi, which is 3.14, and r, which we just found, is 3.54. Multiply that out, and you're done. That gives me the circumference, which is 22.20, let's say 22.2. It's 0.214, so 22.2 centimeters. And you're done. So they gave me the surface area. I used that value to find r. Once I found r, I plugged it into the circumference, and that's how I found 22.2. Okay, so last two. This is review from last chapter, solving quadratics. So let's solve this quadratic equation using any method. Whenever you tackle one of these, make sure you put it in standard form first, and then you can decide which method you're going to use. So first, this is not in the right form, right? We're going to put it in standard form. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to subtract 3x, and I'm going to subtract 15. That way they go away on the left side, and I get 0, which is what I want. So when you subtract 3x, you're going to get 6x squared minus x, and then the negative 15 will come over and become minus 15. Okay. Now we're going to try to see what the best method is. I'm eliminating completing the square right away because the first term is not a perfect square. The second term is not an even number, which is what we like. So no completing the square here. Let's try factoring. If factoring doesn't work, then we'll go to quadratic formula. Okay. So 6 times negative 15 makes negative 90. Negative 90. So figure out pairs of numbers that when you multiply them, they make negative 90, but when you combine them together, they make negative 1. Factors of 90 are 9 and 10, and there's others, of course, but these jump out at me right away. 9 times 10, and they work out perfectly, right? Because I want them to combine together to make a negative 1. So if I make the 10 negative and the 9 positive, that's 9 times negative 10, that's negative 90. That's perfect. That's the ones those are the ones I need. Okay? So if we're going to factor by grouping, you're going to go 6x squared plus 9x. That 9x comes from this 9 minus 10x minus 15 equals 0. We group these two together. We group these two together. So when I do that, factor out the first one, I factor out a 3x, and I get x plus 3. In the other one, I'm going to factor out a negative 5, so that I could have x plus 3. And then I see that I have x plus 3 in common, so my first factor is x plus 3. The other factor is 3x minus 5. Right? X plus 3 is these two. 3x minus 5 is these two right here. Equals 0. And there you go. It worked out. I don't need the quadratic formula. So I solve them both. X plus 3 equals 0, which means x equals negative 3. And 3x minus 5 equals 0, which means x equals positive 5 over 3. And I'm done. Okay, so this is the last one of the review. Graph f of x equals negative 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. I'm going to start, since it's already in the form that I like, vertex form, I'm going to start by making an xy table for the parent function. We have that memorized, right? Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. And my y values are 4, 1, 0, 1, 4. And I'm going to transform that function into a new function using these numbers that they gave me here. So by looking at that one, I'm going to figure out what h is, what a is, and what k is, right? H, A, K. Heck. H in this case, if you look at the function right here, h is always right here. It is not negative 2, it is positive 2, because the function says minus h. So h is 2. A is right here in front, negative 3. And k is right here at the end, positive 4. And remember, h affects the x values, a and k affect the y values every single time. So here we go. The h will be added to all the x values. So take all of the x values here and add 2 to them to get your new x values. So let's go one by one. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. 0 plus 2 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. And 2 plus 2 is 4. Done with the x values. The y values is a little bit more involved, right? You have to do two things to them. You have to multiply first times negative 3, and then you have to add 4, right? This is a multiplication one. This is an adding or subtracting depending on the sign. So first multiply by negative 3, then add 4. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, plus 4 is negative 8. Be careful when you're doing that, okay? So this is what I did. I took this 4 right here, and I did 4 times negative 3, and then plus 4, giving me negative 8. I'm going to write each one so you guys can see. 1 is the next one, times negative 3 plus 4. That's negative 3 plus 4 is 1. 0 times negative 3 plus 4. That'll give me 4. And they're going to repeat, right? The next one should be 1 and the next one should be negative 8. But just to check again, 1 times negative 3 plus 4 is 1. And 4 times negative 3 plus 4 is negative 8. So my values are 8, negative 8, 1, 4, 1, negative 8. And I'm done. All I got to do now is just graph those numbers. Looks like my y values go from positive 4 to negative 8. And my x values only go in the positives, right? So that's all I need. I need negatives down here. Let me fix that. I need more in the negative than in the positive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here we go. 0, negative 8, way down here. I'm going to put in red so you guys can see the points. There it is. 1, 1, right there. 2, 4, up here. 3, 1, right here. And 4, negative 8, way down here. And there is your parabola. Kind of missed that last point, but there's your parabola.